Good sort of morning, good sort of afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Opera House. We all have them, mental Polaroids. We can close our eyes and we can see them, sometimes even in color. They are so vivid. Our memories captured forever. And I have a mental Polaroid of a wedding reception in Chiswick in 1982. And a young man named Mark Dean comes up to me and he says, I've just signed 2 young boys from North London. They're going to be big. You're going to like them. Well, they were big, and I did like them. But it's my only memory of Mark Dean. I can't remember anything else about him. But I have plenty of mental Polaroids about the man who is with us today. So many through the years, involving great achievement in recordings in this country and America and all over the world. You know I love trivia, and here's a great one for you. Who is the only British artist to have 3 number ones in America as a soloist during the 1980s? Answer, George Michael. Who's the only duo to have 3 number ones in America during the 1980s from Britain? Answer, George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley. And of course, he wrote them all. And of course, there were more number ones. And you know all the achievements, and they're here in your press pack. But more than that, I have mental Polaroids of George in performance, often in the largest of venues, particularly at the great charity events, which is no surprise since George has very quietly and privately been one of the 3 greatest philanthropists in popular music that I have known. Live Aid, Nelson Mandela birthday concert, Freddie Mercury tribute concert. He was there for all of them. At the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, there were so many great artists. Axl Rose and Elton John and Seal and Lisa Stansfield. The MTV man sitting next to me said, "Who's left? Liza Minnelli?" And the next act was Liza Minnelli. But the funny thing was, of all those great artists, George Michael outshone them all, as was proved by Somebody to Love on the 5 Live EP, because when you set this man loose in a large audience, out comes the soul, out comes the artist. And that's what's going to happen on this tour, which I'm so excited to see, is getting him out of the house and getting him around Europe in the great opera houses and arenas. I was in Verona Arena last summer. Now I can imagine George being there. What a great, great evening that is going to be. And so today we're here to discuss this tour, the Symphonica tour, with the large orchestras in the great venues. And here's the man who's going to undertake that tour, George Michael. Quite simply, the way that we're going to handle this is I'll ask you for questions, and we have microphone women who will approach you with the microphone, so please wait until you get your microphone before you ask your question. May we have a first question? And the microphone girl is here, and okay, you got one right there?
I'm a freelance journalist. I work for all sorts, not Horse and Hound though. I'd like to ask you, you've written incredible and stunning songs over the years, and now you're rearranging them for symphony orchestra. So I just wondered what inspired you to go into this new musical territory and to tour with symphony orchestras, and also how did Hello. How did you go about choosing some of these really iconic European music venues?
Well, the idea of singing with symphony orchestras around the world was actually inspired by something, because I'd actually heard that Tony Bennett had done it recently. I thought, what a lovely idea to actually go to various places around the world and play with those symphony orchestras. Originally, I hoped to play almost entirely theatres and the places that those symphony orchestras would normally play, and then it became fairly obvious that I was either going to have to play each one for 2 weeks, or I would not get to play to enough of my fans, really. And the idea of actually singing with this kind of backing has been very attractive to me for a long period of time, but I kind of thought it was something that, for instance, when I made the songs from the Last Century album, the reason I didn't go and do what would have been the obvious thing to do, which was play at the Albert Hall, film it, and make a big deal of it, was I thought almost that I was, at that time, I guess I was 37. I thought I was almost too young to be making that statement, because it's the kind of thing people tend to do closer to the end of their careers. It couldn't be further from the truth then, and it's still not true to say that I'm ready to be a crooner and not much more, because, of course, during this tour and in the breaks that there are on this tour, I'll be recording a brand new album, which is about as far away from this Symphonica idea as could be imagined, really. And I felt that it was a great time. I felt very kind of re-energized after some of my recent troubles. And I felt it was a really good time. What do I want as an artist? As an artist at this stage, I think I've said before that I'm really not interested or excited by repeating former successes. And in my writing, I think I try to keep changing things about. But at this stage in life, there are two elements that I feel can be explored further. One is dance music, and one is the idea of my voice. And I think there's always been a very obvious love from my fans for both sides of what I do. And as an artist, I think all you can want is to make each new piece of music more authentic to who you really are. Once your ego is sated in a way, and once you're really not worrying about charts, and believe me, luckily I'm not worrying about charts very much, once that's happened, authenticity becomes the thing you strive for. And that means to me more honesty and more of myself in each of those areas. So I think musically, both things will be very different to what people are expecting, but they're both more honest, and I've always wanted to sing with this kind of backing so I could really, really use my voice and not just concentrate on keeping thousands and thousands of people really excited for 2.5 hours. I've probably got one more of those tours in me, but right now I'd like to have something slightly different. And then the album, which is something, again, which is me being far more true to myself in terms of lyrical content, in terms of the music that I listen to now, having been an out gay man for the best part of 13 or 14 years. So both projects are distinctly, very distinctly separate, but I want to work on them both together, and so that in my mind the progress is all happening at the same time, maybe because I feel I have so much time to make up for. And I really hope that my fans, and possibly some new fans, will arrive with each project, because they really are going to be very different.
It reminds me of Steven Spielberg, who was filming Schindler's List during the day and editing Jurassic Park at night. Okay, we will come down here, but the mic's in the middle right now, so do we have another one from around that area? Anyone in there? Yeah, okay.
Hi, George. It's Charlie Gerling from Heart FM. Very exciting news about the tour. What kind of covers can we expect from you? Because you said you're going to be covering some of your favourite artists. So what can the audiences look forward to?
Well, there will be covers. There'll be a lot of songs from my own history that people have never heard me sing before live, because some of them never really didn't lend themselves to anything but intimate venues. So there'll be some songs that will surprise people that I've never played before live. There'll be songs from the album, songs from the last century, because I thought it was such a beautiful album, beautifully arranged and produced, and those arrangements kind of deserve a wider audience, I think. But also, I don't want to give the game away too much, because I want the show to be surprising, but artists from my own history that have influenced me in ways that people wouldn't imagine when they hear my music, because my music has only ever reflected part of the music that I listen to, and some of my favourite albums would not be things that anyone expected. And even though they influenced me, I still know who I am and what I'm capable of, what my limitations are. But I think I've found some really nice ways to cover some of those beautiful old songs and incredible artists that people wouldn't necessarily have understood influenced me.
Okay, let's have one more from up there and then bring it up here. One more from the middle of the room. Okay. Yep.
Hi, George. Lucrezia from London Tonight. Hello.
Oh, there you are.
As you said, this is a different direction for you. Are you hoping to appeal to a new audience? And did you ever think the boy from Radlett would be performing at the Royal Opera House?
Well, actually, funnily enough, the very first show that I ever played was at a Cub Scout hut in Bushey, up the road from the school. And there were about 400 or 500 people there, I think, mostly friends and family, you know. It was quite a large band. But it went incredibly well. And I've never actually appeared on stage and left disappointed to this day, so I'm hoping this isn't going to change any of that. As for what I would expected as a child, I never, as I've said before, I really saw fame, the limitations of fame in 1981 when Andrew and I started our first school band, or 1980 when we first started our school band. Really, you saw Top of the Pops as being the be-all and end-all, and if you'd made it to Top of the Pops, that's as big as it got, you know. Maybe also because it was in a time post-punk when a lot of English bands weren't selling internationally, so you didn't see that many people doing well in America. But I had absolutely no clue of where I would end up. No, I mean, nobody dreams of this, really. I mean, if you do, then you're most likely to be disappointed, you know.
It is true that in 1981 there was hardly any crossover from this country to America with new artists, and it was the Human League, Don't You Want Me, and Tainted Love by Soft Cell that made the
All
breakthroughs.
Right.
Okay, sorry. All right, let's bring it down to the front of the room where there are a lot of eager beavers. Okay, how about this fellow here? Oh, right here.
Hi, Lisa Zimmer from BBC News. You referred to what a difficult year 2010 was for you. What kind of impact has your prison experience had on you, your music, and why the decision to tour again? It seemed a few years ago you weren't going to do that.
Well, in the terms of the decision to tour again, what I actually said was I wouldn't be doing another arena show. And what I really meant was I couldn't see myself going out there and doing a big greatest hits show, which was almost entirely, in terms of the way I planned it out, a thank you for the 17 years of absence of touring before that. And so I gave people exactly what I thought they wanted. And as for the stuff about 2010, one, I didn't specify a year, because I've had troubles for fair number. And two, anything personal that's not about this, you'll have to tweet me.
Okay, right next to him. Yeah.
Simon Cable from the Daily Mail. You've obviously got such a huge worldwide...
I can't believe you're in the front row.
You've obviously got a huge
Has anyone
worldwide...
got some vegetables?
Have you been surprised by just how much all your fans have stuck by you, particularly over the last 12 months?
Surprised, no. I mean, I was surprised by the amount of support I've had in some ways, but my fans have always been incredibly loyal through, you know, there was a period where I didn't work for 3 years because I was taking on the standard contract. As it turns out, a complete waste of time. And there was, you know, several periods in my career where you would think, listening to you lot, that I had problem holding on to my fans, but my fans have been incredibly loyal. I mean, I think there aren't many fans that will put up with an average time between albums of about 8 years. Or people that would wait so long to see somebody live. I mean, so they've never let me down. I was fairly overwhelmed by the support in the last 10 months, but it shouldn't have surprised me because I have an amazing group of fans.
Okay,
Let me talk to Paul. Let me talk to Paul. He's the only person here I know. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Have you recovered from the 80s quite yet?
Just about. Paul Simper Buzz magazine. Lady Gaga has apparently asked for a rider for her next sort of show over here for Union Jack Bunting and Pim served in bone china teacups. For an illustrious tour like this, what will be your backstage rider?
Oh my God, if it was boring before. My backstage rider is normally the same. It's some stuff that people can come in and eat when I'm if they're bored, my friends come backstage and eat the stuff that's in my room. But I don't eat very much or demand very much. I think I have flowers. I think so. But I certainly don't specify which flowers or... No, I have a very, very cheap rider.
Will there be any duets as well on this tour?
I'm hoping for some pretty amazing ones, yeah, but because the artists aren't confirmed, I can't really say that.
James Corden.
Okay. He can sing, we all know he can sing now.
Okay. Yes, this fellow here, right now. Why not?
Hi, George, Mark from The People.
Hi.
I'm a huge fan of yours, and it's great to be here today. You talk about making up for lost time, and I think that before the 25 Live tour, you hadn't toured for about 10 years, is that right? 17 years. What has brought you around to the way of thinking that you should get out of the house more now and do what you do best? Because I think a lot of people have wanted to see you, you know...
Well, I mean, you know, what was going to be a 3-month tour eventually was a 3-year tour. And there was a simple reason for that, which is I absolutely loved it, you know. I've found a new relationship with being on stage and I've kind of come to terms with some of the things I was very afraid of 17 years previous to the last tour. I guess the last tour being 1990, I think it was before that. I really had felt the pressure of touring, especially having only known the experience with Andrew, which was always a laugh. So I think the time that I gave it up, I really believed it was the right thing to do. And then when I went out on tour again, I was so overwhelmed by how different it felt and what it was to go out on tour with a catalogue spanning almost 25 years at that time, or did span 25 years. There was a very different thing. It was a much more celebratory atmosphere than I'd ever expected. So I felt a huge amount of loyalty and affection for those people who came to see me, and it encouraged me to tour for the next 3 years. And in terms of a recovery from a very, very long period of grief and kind of self-abuse in certain ways, although obviously it never got that bad because I never missed a show. I never once missed an encore, I don't think. But in terms of trying to kind of stay on the straight and narrow, as it were, then there's nothing better than work that you love. And so I thought I should tour sooner rather than later to keep that, have that impetus, keep driving me to take care of myself and to appreciate what I have, and more than anything to actually... It's such an amazing thing to watch the effect on my audience of an evening's entertainment. There's no question that is probably the most valuable thing I can ever do in terms of contribution. And it seems that God wanted me to. He gave me the voice to do it and the stamina to do it, I suppose, at my age. So yeah, I thought it's the most positive experience you've had in, say, the last 20 years. Why wait, you know? So as soon as I could start organising, I did.
Okay, there's a chap over there with a very high reach, so why don't we acknowledge him? Oh, okay.
Hi, it's Dan from RTL Germany. Very excited about the dates there. I know everybody will be.
George, your English is very good.
George, you were quoted in the press recently saying that you were too embarrassing to be a father, but surely that's one of the most fun things about being a father, is the dad jokes, and you're quite candid. And you were saying you've got more energy and a lot to give, so do you think you'll reconsider the fact that you said it was a resolute no for children when you saw how happy Zachary has made Elton and David?
It's another tweet, I'm afraid. It's a great answer, that, isn't it? It's great.
Okay.
So diplomatic.
That's right, it is.
I won't say it here, but I'll say it.
That's right. Okay, let's go over here, woman on the aisle.
Hello, it's Marcia from OK Magazine.
Hi, Marcia.
Hi. I noticed that you've duetted over the years with some equally incredible artists, and I just wondered who have been some of your favourites and why.
Well, you can't really do that without offending the others, can you? I can't say that any of them were more or less thrilling. They were always, you know, everybody that I've sung with has been great to work with. I've been very pleased with the results of each one. So, and they were so different in type. I mean, the Queen experience was inspirational and tragic at the same time, and very difficult because of the situation in my life with my partner at that time. Aretha Franklin, it was just a dream come true, and she'd actually asked me at 20 to write and produce something, at which point I'd actually chickened out and said I really couldn't do it. It was just too overwhelming for me. I'd only produced, I think at that point, Wake Me Up Before You Go. And the idea of sitting and telling Aretha what to do, or would you do that again, please, was not really, and I still didn't, I have to say, 4 years later, but that's why I had someone else produce it and someone else write it. It was still out of fear. But Aretha was an amazing experience. Every one of them has been fantastic, and the public seem to enjoy it. So, and there are still a few more to come, hopefully.
Okay, this woman here in the front row, let's give her credit. She's kept her hand up all the time.
It's a short reach. George, hello, it's Julia Cutner. I'm freelance. I wanted to ask you, these dates go up to April. Are you thinking you'll do the Olympic opening ceremony, the big show here next year?
Well, the dates don't actually go up to April. What we've got is a series of dates that start before, probably in the last week of August. Is it the last week of August, finalised, he says? Last week of August, and they're working me right up to Christmas. The last show is, I think, booked on the 22nd of December, 4 Earls Court, and apparently I can do some more if I want, but I might be very knackered by then. And then I'm taking a break to finish the studio album, and then on April the 29th next year, we're hoping to play, we will be playing at the Opera House in Paris, which has never been a pop venue before, so I'm very excited about that. It's probably the most beautiful opera house in the world. So that will be probably kicking off the second leg of the tour, but the second leg of the tour is not finalised, but will probably be very extensive and cover other areas of the world. What was the other part of the question? You did ask 2 questions.
Whether you'd be doing something for the Olympic opening ceremony, the big show next year, because they look, it will be big British names.
I'd love to. No one's asked me. I would imagine they'll go with Take That, won't they? It's Take That for everyone these days. Say again?
Is he joining the Take That line up for one song?
I think even for the Olympics that might look a bit odd.
Okay. This fella here looks like he's holding his own microphone, but maybe he's holding an illicit device.
Hello, George. Tom Thorogood from The Sun. I sat a few rows back from the front. Tell us a bit more about the dance music album that you've talked about. Have you got a list of collaborators who you'd like to work with? Someone like Red One seems to be bringing dance music into the mainstream quite well with Gaga.
Yeah, I love the fact that house music, which has basically been the staple of the gay world since it was invented, really. I love the fact that has been brought into the mainstream so much by Lady Gaga and by Rihanna, funnily enough, as well. And it makes for some really exciting pop records. I'm looking to work with either gay or gay-friendly artists. They definitely have to be gay-friendly. And I have a few provisional titles, but basically it will be a gay collective on which some of the records are sung by myself and some of them are sung by other artists, young gay artists, possibly unknown ones. But there's some amazing material I've already got my hands on, and in collaboration with a lot of dance producers, I think it could be a stunning record. And of course, at 47, by the time the album comes out, I'll be 48. To a degree, pop music traditionally starts to exclude you at a certain age, which is natural, totally natural phenomenon. But in reality, gay men's relationship with dance music doesn't end at the same time that straight people's does. So I'm not really stepping into shoes just to see what it's like. I've kind of lived with that music for a long time, still a big part of my life. And I think it's only honest to make the music that you're excited by. So I hope not to be excluded, but really there'll be so many other points. There'll be a lot of lyrical importance for me in writing this next album. So it's really a matter of thinking, what can I do to contribute as a gay man? Because I have serious problem with the fact that every time I make a big mistake, every time I would let myself down, I felt definitely that I was letting young gay kids down, because they would then witness the homophobia that was thrown at me and the wording of that homophobia, the language that's legal in this country. So I like to think that life is a balance, and whenever there's something bad, there's something good you can do with it. So I have some plans to try and do things to help gay children, and I think we're notoriously bad as a community at helping our own when it comes to children, because we don't have our own children. So there are things about this next album where I'm going to try and make up for some of the the damage that I've inadvertently caused just by making myself so newsworthy and putting myself on the back foot enough that I couldn't defend, or there was no room or space to defend gay children from some of that language. So, I have very, very definite plans for the record outside of just what it does musically and on the dance floors and on radio.
George, on your Twitter page, you're saying you're working with Carla Bruni.
Oh, on the Twitter page?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you explain that, please?
Well, the thing is, Carla Bruni is the spokesperson for an amazing charity called Born Free of HIV, and it's these seem to be stunning statistics, but she assures me they're true. Because the French take care of people in terms of health so much better than most other nations, including ourselves. There were only 2 babies registered in France last year that were born with HIV. 2, and that's because of a massive treatment plan. Which absolutely blew me away. When I heard about this charity, I was blown away by how logical it was and how many lives it was saving and how easily it could be done. So I immediately was interested in trying to associate the Parisian Opera House show with her charity, because most of these charities, let me make something clear, we at the moment there are 4 opera houses booked. 2 of them will be for charity. The one here in the Opera House here in Covent Garden will be for charity, and hopefully in honour of Elizabeth Taylor and making some contributions to her foundation, because I knew her and she was such a wonderful lady, and she worked so tirelessly and completely selflessly. I'd like to pay my respects in some way. In Paris, I would imagine it will be Born Free of HIV that will be the associated charity. But the logistics of those 2 charity shows aren't finalised, so we can't actually sell the tickets for those 2 yet. There are another 2 opera houses, one in Marseille and the other in Prague, which at the moment is looking like the opening show. Which aren't charity venues because they're very small. But these are particular venues, very particular venues. Most of the tour is going to be in larger venues just so I can play it to everybody, really.
Okay, let's go back in the room. I see you there. Yes, okay.
Hi, George. Lucy from Sky News. You said your rider on this tour would be quite boring. What kind of lifestyle choices and changes have you made to enable you to go on tour and to do this album? Because you're looking great.
Oh, thank you. Let me see. The obvious one is well, actually, no, I'm not going to go into this. I'm not going to go into this because it will be tomorrow in the newspaper. So it's another tweet question. I'm sorry. I've got to keep it to the music. You know me. I like to talk about myself, but it's normally funnier on Twitter anyway.
Okay. So let's have one last question then, and there is someone right there. Oh, yeah, I know you.
Lawrence Sparcy from Getty Images. You've said yourself that your fans will wait a very long time for you to bring out an album or go on tour. Do you think this slightly new genre of music will alienate some of your fans, or, to your knowledge, do they always embrace everything that you produce?
Well, normally when I have new music, normally when I change my style in any way, it alienates some people. I'm like an old soap opera people don't want to change, aren't I, really? You know, I don't take that very seriously. I think people have to remember I'm a writer and a producer, and I'm bored to death very easily. If I don't explore different areas, then I am literally just going to repeat what I do, and I've always been afraid of that. And alienating people is not really the problem. If that had been a problem for me, I know people find it hard to believe, but I really honestly could write much, much more straightforward pop songs. I would know how to appeal to my 80s audience entirely if I wanted to. And to some degree, some of the album that's coming up does that, but then again it gives them lyrics that are gay enough that will probably alienate some of them. Do you know what I'm saying? I tend not to take the easy road, otherwise it just seems to be pointless. But yeah, alienation, I think that goes on in all kinds of ways. I think for all the good fortune I have, I don't think anyone can dispute that I've made myself some pretty strong enemies in the past, and I've put myself in positions where I am going to alienate people. But ultimately, one, I have to be inspired by the music I'm making, and two, I have to live the life that I believe I should live. So in terms of alienation, I don't think that's ever been a big worry of mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us thank George Michael.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.